It's time for our review. Yay! Filming sitting down today, which I really hate, and it's weird and uncomfortable, and I'd much rather be standing up, but I've hurt my back somehow. I don't know how, but I'm like a 90-year-old woman just hobbling around the place. So, yeah, this is what we're doing now. Right, so firstly, earlier this week it was announced that NBC has cancelled Hannibal, which, of course, obviously, I mean, why would you keep making a show that's so beautiful and well written and critically acclaimed and that so many people enjoy and actively engage in? You know, I don't see why you would do that. That's However, all is not lost. The whole cast and crew and all of us fans are coming together and tweeting, tumbling the hashtag Save Hannibal, and basically just bothering people until we get the show picked up by someone else. At the moment, I think Bryan Fuller is in talks with both Amazon and Netflix, so hopefully we should know soon enough whether we've been picked up. I think we have a pretty good chance of getting picked up by somebody else. And we have an even better chance if we keep making a lot of noise and letting people know how dedicated we are to the show, how much we are willing to pay for the show if someone makes it. Like, we will give you money if you make it, whoever you are. So yeah, keep using the hashtag Save Hannibal. That's what I'm putting on all these videos now. And just stay positive, stay hopeful, keep fanbulling. We'll be fine. It's gonna be fine. It'll be fine. It's all fine. Everything's fine. I'm not accepting defeat yet. I'm not doing it. We're fine. We're good. We're cool. Everything's gonna be fine. Tell you what's not fine though? This fucking episode. Cause, things! Let's talk about them now. So this is a review for Hannibal Season 3, Episode 4, Aperitivo. Directed by Marc Jobst and written by Nick Antosca, Bryan Fuller and Steve Lightfoot. So this episode is filling in the gap between the end of Series 2 and where we are presently in Europe with Hannibal and Will. In this episode we get to find out how everyone survived the finale, which all of them I can accept except for Chilton. Like, I'm glad Chilton's alive, I love Chilton, but he got shot in the face. He got shot in the face. He looks remarkably well. He has recovered incredibly well, incredibly quickly, so. It's also already copyrighted Hannibal the Cannibal, which of course he does. Of course he does. It's Chilton. Of course he does. Chilton is sort of the catalyst for this episode. He's the one that makes everything happen. He goes to each character in turn and tries to corrupt them, manipulate them into being on his side and helping him catch Hannibal so he can lock him up and study him and become really famous for studying him, because he's just like that. It's his thing. So through him we get to see all the other characters and where they are at this particular moment. The very first person that Chilton approaches, or at least the first person that we see Chilton approach in this episode, is Mason Verger, who had his face eaten, was hypnotized into feeding his face to dogs last season. Which, good, yeah, if anyone deserves to have their face eaten, it's fucking Mason. He's chatting away to Chilton, and, you know, Chilton's all made up and looking pretty normal, and he's like, no, take this shit off. He takes out the contact lens in his eye and pulls out the cheek plate and wipes off the makeup, and you just see like his torn apart face, and you see Mason's torn apart face. It's, yeah, torn apart faces. There's nothing redeemable about Mason Verger. Hannibal is awful. He's awful. But he has one or two redeeming qualities. He's always polite, and, you know, if you're nice to him, he'll probably won't eat you, or will at least kill you in a humane way. And secondly, he never, ever, under any circumstances, sexually assaults someone. So when a cannibal, like a torturous, murderous, manipulative, sociopathic cannibal is a better person than you, you deserve to get fucking eaten by pigs. I'm sorry, you do. Mason Verger is evil. Having said that, Hannibal did lure Alana into his bed on false pretenses, so you can kind of argue that that was not entirely assault. Like, I don't think Hannibal would have ever had sex with her against her will, but he did get her into bed on false pretenses, so that's not cool. I don't want this to sound like I'm defending Hannibal or making him out to be some sort of hero, because I'm really not. He's awful. Like, I enjoy him as a character, but he's awful. I'm just pointing out the fact that this awful, horrible monster of a man is still infinitely better as a person than Mason Verger. From the sounds of it, Alana and Margot are going to have some sort of plan up their sleeve to deal with Mason, so that should be fun. So that scene from the second episode, where, you know, Abigail comes in and she's talking to Will, but then it turns out that she's imaginary, and I was like, oh, that blurry shot, it's going to turn out to either be Alana or Margot, probably Margot, because Alana's in a wheelchair at that particular time. Or no, she's strapped down to a bed at that particular moment, isn't she? Because she just got thrown out of a window. Turns out it's none of the ladies, it's actually Chilton coming in, talking to him with a big bunch of flowers, which I didn't see coming. I like that. And I don't know if it's just me, but those look suspiciously similar to the flowers that he brings Alana later on. But I'm pretty sure that he's just recycling flowers, because he doesn't give a shit. Now, Will is obviously aware that Chilton's there, he's talking to him, he's responding to him, but he also seems to be experiencing the scene as we saw it in episode 2, where he's talking to Abigail. And that kind of ties into the way that Will doesn't really see things linearly. I just love Will. Will, like, he's been through so much. He's so strong. He's so strong and capable and resilient, and he's still a good person. He's still functional, which is incredible, because who would be after all that? We get to see Will at home after he's been released from the hospital, and he's welding something in his garage, and all his dogs are there, and the boat is out there. Clearly he's working on the boat. But as he's welding, he's imagining a very similar scene. We saw it a lot in season 1, season 2. Hannibal and Will and Jack all around the dinner table, eating together, having a lovely time. Then Hannibal and Will just stabbing the shit out of Jack. Which obviously that didn't happen. I don't know if that was their plan last season, if that was what they were talking about doing. But it's just so sad, because Jack is his friend. You know, Will cares about Jack, but he wishes he'd killed him. He wishes he'd killed him and gone with Hannibal, and that they were together right now, and I just like, ah! So then Jack shows up and he's talking to him, confronting him basically, because Will did betray Jack at the end of last season. He spent all of last season betraying Hannibal, but at the very last moment he flipped and he betrayed Jack, and he wanted to save Hannibal. And he asks Will when he decided to alert Hannibal, and Will says he didn't really decide, he just called Hannibal, he just called him. But when he heard Hannibal's voice, that made his decision, and he had to tell him to run. Jack asks him why he did it, and God, there's this, Hugh Dancy just, I mean, they're all amazing actors, but Hugh Dancy in this scene, like, Jack asked him, why did you alert Hannibal? And he's like, because he was my friend. And it's like, he's so close to breaking and saying more than that, and he just doesn't, and he just can't. But he does admit that he wanted to run away with Hannibal, which is in many ways bigger and more important than what the actual thing is that he feels for Hannibal. The fact that he would have left and would have run away with him and been with him is bigger than that, and that's the bit that he admits. This fucking show, man, I just, like, it's too gay for network television. It just is. It belongs on Netflix or Amazon or somewhere where it can just be as gay as it likes and everything is good. Everything is fine. This is a good thing. I am just determined to see this cancellation as a positive thing, because it's not the end. It's not going to be the end. I've refused for it to be the end. After Will, the next person that Chilton visits is Alana, and she's laid out on that hospital bed gurney thing, and she's got all the needles or bolts or whatever they are in her legs, and she's seriously injured. I mean, of course she's seriously injured. She got thrown out of a fucking window. And I love, love, love the fact that she said, well, at least now I get to use the word defenestration in regular conversation, because defenestration is one of my favourite words, like, of all time. I just think it's wonderful. So the fact that she said that, I was just like, ah! For those of you that don't know, defenestration means that being thrown out of a window, like the act of throwing something or someone out of a window. So I love that there's a word for that from the French fenêtre, which is a window. So to a window, like unwindowed, to be unwindowed essentially. So I love that word, and that made me happy. So Alana is in a pretty dark place. Of course she is. Her boyfriend turned out to be a murderous cannibal who tried to kill all of the people she loved and also threw her out of a window. She's in an incredible amount of physical pain. She doesn't know at this point whether she's going to be able to walk again or not. Unlike Will, she is not prepared to forgive Hannibal in any way. She is all up for catching him, for killing him maybe. I mean, we don't know exactly what her plan is. And I think one of the things that really spurs her on to go that dark and to start working with Mason, who she clearly detests, is when she goes to Hannibal's house. She's gotten out of the hospital and she's in her wheelchair at this stage, and she finds Will sitting there all on his own. He says that he's trying to remember, and Alana asks him, don't you want to forget? I mean, there's certainly a part of her that really wants to forget everything that happened. But Will doesn't want to forget. He's building his own mind palace where he can keep Hannibal and Abigail and they can all just be together. Obviously he's so ready to forgive Hannibal and go with him and be with him. And I think seeing Will like that just makes that last shred of forgiveness and sympathy inside of Alana just snap. Like, I mean, it was pretty threadbare ever since the window incident, but that especially just makes her go, no. No. Mason Verger has put out a bounty on Hannibal. He wants him brought in. We find this out earlier in the episode. And he asks Alana to be his new therapist because Chilton isn't prepared to go along with his plans. So Alana shows up at the Verger estate with her cane. So it must be a good couple of months later because she's got her cane and she's walking on her own. And she meets Margot Verger. Yay. And they have they have a little flirt and they're talking away. It has been stated that they are gonna get together later in the season, which is amazing. I'm so happy about it. Like, they're both such strong, amazing characters, and Alana now is in quite a dark place and Margot's kind of always been in that dark place, so just the two of them together are just, oh, it's gonna be so good. Plus, you know, bisexual representation. Yay! Finally! Oh! Alana clearly has nothing but disgust and contempt for Mason, but he has the resources and the anger to to find Hannibal and to bring him in. So she's just completely using him for that, for her own gains, to get her own revenge. Alanna had her trust completely and utterly betrayed for Hannibal. Because it's not just that they were like sleeping together for a little while, she'd known him for years. She considered him an incredibly close, trusted friend. And then that very close friendship developed into more of a romantic relationship, and like, you know, it wasn't perfect, but she thought, oh, this could lead somewhere nice, and this man who has always been so kind to me and has taken care of me and been my really good friend, he's now my lover, and he's really good in bed, and he's beautiful, and maybe everything's gonna be nice now. And then it turns out, no, he's evil and awful and a cannibal, and he tried to kill the guy I fancy, and he tried to kill my other really good friend, and then he threw me out of a window. She absolutely deserves her revenge after that. Like, he fucked her over in every way imaginable. And he doesn't even care. Like, I think that's almost worse. Like, he betrayed Will and tortured Will and tried to kill Will because he loves Will. He doesn't really give a shit about Alanna, which makes it so much worse. There's a part of me that loves Hannibal and doesn't want him to get caught, but Alanna absolutely deserves to catch him. Will deserves to catch him too, but Will doesn't want to now. Will wants to be with him. So I think Alanna deserves to catch him at this stage. She needs to catch him and bloody him up and bring him home and do whatever it is she's gonna do. So the last person that Chilton goes to see is Jack. Jack. Poor Jack. And when he wakes up, he is next to Bella, who is also sick and in bed, and obviously she's dying from her cancer. And she tells him in no uncertain terms that they are not going to the grave together. He is going to survive. Like, she commands that he survive. Jack is, of course, concerned about Will. He is. But I don't think he realises quite how bad it is until Chilton points out that, you know, getting disemboweled by Hannibal isn't going to make Will stop liking him. That, like, in terms of their relationship, that's kind of foreplay. I don't think Jack had really considered that. I think he assumed that Hannibal trying to kill Will was just, that was it. That was the end of it. Will's loyalties weren't going to be divided anymore because Will would go, shit, that guy tried to kill me, I don't like him anymore. But he absolutely isn't. He still wants Hannibal. And Jack realises that, and he's like, oh fuck. He knows that he has to do something about that. But more pressingly, he has to take care of his wife. And he has to take care of her in the only possible way he can care for her anymore. And that is to kill her. I think he gives her an overdose of morphine, or whatever. He injects her with something. I'm assuming it's morphine for the pain. Jack would love nothing more than to just cling on to every possible moment he could still have with Bella. But she wants to go. He knows that. She's told him that. The only reason that Bella is still clinging on to life is for Jack's benefit. She doesn't want to still be there, but she knows that he needs her around. So he needs to let her move on, and he needs to let her die, but he wants to be with her when that happens, so he gives her an overdose and he curls up around her in bed and he just stays with her as she dies. Lawrence Fishburne and Gina Torres are married in real life, so I can't even begin to try and understand how awful and how traumatic those scenes must have been for both of them to act. That must have fucked with his head. That must have been really, really difficult to do. And then we get the just really beautiful scene where it's sort of Jack's remembering his wedding to Bella, and that's intercut with her actual funeral. It's really, really heartbreaking. Like, beautifully shot, beautifully written, but completely heartbreaking. And then he notices a note addressed to him on one of the bunches of flowers, and he knows. The minute he sees it, he knows. But he takes it and he opens it up, and it's a letter from Hannibal, basically just saying, I'm really sorry about Bella, you know, that's awful that that happened. And a sincere letter, because Hannibal genuinely liked Bella, and he, I think, is genuinely upset that she's dead and that Jack has to go through all that, because he actually genuinely likes Jack as a person as well. But Jack is just like, fuck this. No, this is not cool. Jack knows that Will loves Hannibal. He wants to go after Hannibal. He wants to be with Hannibal. And he knows that if he does that, that'll utterly destroy him. Will just, he'll be killed, or he'll end up dying some way, or even if he survives, the essence of him will be destroyed. His brain, his heart, his mind will be destroyed by Hannibal. And Jack can't let that happen. He has lost too much because of Hannibal already. And in Jack's mind, it's his fault that Will is so damaged. It's his fault that Will met Hannibal in the first place, and it's his fault that Will got encephalitis. It's his fault that Will was manipulated and abused, and the least he can do now is to save Will from himself. So that answers the question as to why Jack is in Europe and why he's looking for Will instead of Hannibal, because he needs to save Will. Because he didn't save him when it counted, so he wants to save him now. But Will doesn't want to be saved. Will wants to be with Hannibal, so I'm just really worried that it's going to end up with Jack trying to kill Hannibal and then Will killing Jack to save Hannibal. I feel like that's where this is going, and I really don't want it to, because oh god, I mean it would be good in terms of storytelling, but it would be so painful, like from a character point of view, and I can't. Oh, this season's gonna be so painful. It's already painful, but I can feel it's gonna get worse, and I just. The episode ends with Jack going to Will's house and finding Alana there with the dogs, and Alana says, "You're too late, he's already left." Now, in terms of the boat thing, I don't know, like, clearly part of Alana's plan is for Will to go after Hannibal, and then that'll lead everyone else to Hannibal. But I don't know if she put the idea into Will's head that he should go after Hannibal. I don't know if Will was just going to stay and be miserable, or if he was actually planning on going already and Alana just gave him a little push. The very last scene is Will on a boat sailing to Italy. It's like a scene in like a romantic comedy or something, like, "Don't worry baby, I'm coming to get you, I'm sailing away on my boat," and it's just so absurd and wonderful. And like he said, did he sail to Europe? Is that what he did? He's just like, yeah, just gonna sail over here now. Is he that good of a sailor? Has that been brought up? Did it make sense? I don't know. Do I care? Not really. So that is it for this review. I will link to this week's postmortem below. Next week we get a rematch between Jack and Hannibal. Let's see who wins this time. God, it's gonna be really bad, especially if Will's there. It's gonna be really bad. I'm really excited for next week. I'm also dreading it. Please, if you love Hannibal, if you want this show to continue, get on Twitter, get on Facebook, get everywhere. Bother Netflix, bother Amazon, bother everyone. Keep tweeting #SaveHannibal, and together we can and we will. Alright, I'll see you next week.